Welcome to Pure Hustle Podcast, part 2 of our interview compilation. In this episode, we're going to take our most recent 5 interviews and kind of condense them down and pull out some highlights from them. It was really difficult to actually pull out the best parts. All we were really able to do is say like, hey, this was really good. This was really good. But really, the entire episodes, all of the interviews were amazing. So if you haven't listened to them in their entirety yet, I highly recommend that you go back and do so. But even if you've already listened to them, I still suggest listening to these highlights that we have here, because I'm a big believer that you oftentimes need to be reminded of stuff that you already know more than you need to learn new things. So these episodes are great reminders of some stuff that you may already know, but there's also some key insights that may totally change the way you do reselling and level up your reselling. So in this episode, you're going to hear our interview with Latin Pickers, SellQuickShipQuick, Side Hustle Network, Matt Klein, and Cindy and Matt from the AmazingTasteStore. Hope you enjoy. Episode 80, The Latin Pickers.
One day he said, hey, Christian, there's people buying like boxes of books for really cheap. And I said, hey, Junior, we don't have money first. And we don't have a way to like take these huge boxes that weigh 1,000 pounds to our house or to anywhere. So
we go to this first thrift store.
So we go to our first thrift store.
And they take us to the back.
And they take us to the back and we're like,
oh, that's easy.
This was easy. Like, you just ask and they like take you to the back and want to sell you the books. So we went down there and they told us, yeah, we can sell them to you, but right now we have a vendor.
Well, we'll sell it for you for $100.
But we'll sell it for you for $100.
And your eyes light.
And I'm like, yes, like we can get a box for $100. That's awesome. And my brother looked at me
so
like,
then we finished.
My brother looked at me was like, are you serious? Why'd you make a happy face? They're charging you $100. Like, this is not
I love your brother's attitude. Like, your brother's all about the deal, man. That's awesome.
I'm not going to say anything, but when we left, he said, Christian, are you crazy? We're not going to pay $100 for a box of books.
She's a manager and she's trying to make money.
So she's a manager and she's trying to make money for her store. Yeah. So we said, you know what?
Let's find the source.
Let's find the source of the hub, basically. Nice. So every Goodwill it's the store, and every Goodwill has a hub, the outlet. And every little thrift store has a hub, in our case. So we went to the hub and we're like, hey, we know that you guys have books, and I was wondering if you guys are able to sell some books. And they said, no, we can't. We actually have a vendor. And I said, how much does he pay? $40. And I said, what about if you can try us for a little bit? We've done this for a long time. Keep in mind, we just started. We were lying. We didn't know anything. So we told them, hey, we'll pay $50 a Gaylord. We've done this for a while, and if you like us, we can keep in touch and you can sell us more.
So you're buying Gaylords. Wait, let me stop you. You're buying Gaylords, not boxes. We're talking about like the things behind you, like the massive.
Exactly. Well, we didn't know what those boxes were called. Were called back then. So now we know that we were buying Gaylords or trifolds of books.
All right. So for our listeners that don't know what a Gaylord is, explain what a Gaylord is. Like the weight, how many books.
So a Gaylord is a heavy box. Probably weighs around 10 pounds, or a little bit less than that. And it holds around 1,000 to 1,200 pounds of books.
Wow.
And that's equivalent to 800 to 1,000 books, right?
Wow.
So these things weigh a lot. And so when we went down there, we were mesmerized. We were thrilled. Hey, they give us a chance. We lied. We actually had to lie to get ourselves into the outlet, to the hub. But they said, okay. So we ran with it. So we started with 3. We bought ourselves our small trailer that holds 3 Gaylords. And we were going to a local park down there, because we didn't want to waste miles and time. So the hub was right here. The park was over there. And it seemed easy to us to just pick through them right there. We bought ourselves a canopy, a trailer that holds 3 Gaylord boxes of books. And so we set up there, and a whole bunch of people, and it's just a random park anywhere. And people were looking at us like, why are these guys throwing books to the ground? Like, do they know
this is hilarious.
Should we call the cops? We actually didn't even ask, because most parks have like a private property, or they have a manager inside that manages everything. Well, we didn't ask anyone. We parked and we scanned. That's what we did. Obviously, if they came out, we were going to say, "Oh, we'll leave." I'm so sorry, we didn't know. But we did that for around 2 months until we actually went into the freeway with those boxes. It was a 1-axle truck. These things weighed 3,000 pounds, and that little trailer wasn't able to hold that much weight. So we were going on the freeway, probably going 65, and suddenly the trailer starts going like this, just waving back and forth.
Oh no!
And it was horrible. So it was waving, and then it was going like this. So
to our listeners on the podcast, it's waving across multiple lanes.
Yeah, it's waving across. We're in one lane. We're in the middle lane, and this trailer is moving, waving throughout the lanes. And we're like, slow down, because we had a business partner at that time, and it was like, slow down. And we're like, oh my God, we're gonna cause an accident. These books are gonna flip. Books are gonna fall on the freeway. What are we gonna do? Like, this is not good. Eventually, we slowed down. We took the streets, and we took those Gaylord storehouse.
But the next day, we changed our strategy.
Yeah, the next day we changed our strategy. We said, we're not going to do this because this is too risky. We're gonna rent a U-Haul, a truck that hold either 6 or 8 Gaylords. And we were doing that 3-4 times a week. Every day we spent $100. So imagine that's $400 just on the truck. And we did that for 1 year.
Wow. Now, I'm curious about this process. So I have this mental picture of you out in a park with a scanner scanning books. So I know what it's like. I've been in, I've scanned books. I've only done it a couple times. I'm no expert, but I know that you go through like 30 books before you find one that's like decent price, and maybe 100 books before it's like, this one's like a money book. So what are you doing with all these other ones? Are they just like going back in the Gaylord, and then are you redonating them to Goodwill? Like, what do you do with them?
So, like you said, we were scanning everything, and at that time, we were not getting everything. So a Gaylord probably holds 800 books, and we were not squeezing every single book. So we were throwing a lot of stuff away. And at that time, the recycling market, right now, the recycling market sucks. China and the US government have a conflict. But at that time, they were paying $120 per ton. So that was 2 Gaylords for $120. And we were doing really good. Just in the recycling part, because imagine we were paying $50 a Gaylord, and we were getting $60 of recycling per Gaylord.
Oh, hey, you can't lose at that point.
You can't lose at that point. The market eventually dropped, and it went down to 80, 100, 80, 60. Eventually dipped to 20 and $0. So at this time, the market, the recycling market is hard. So then that's one of the tips we give people if they want to start a bulk. If you want to start bulk, you have to find a recycler first, because then you're gonna just get Gaylords and not be able to do anything with them. Just you don't get paid to store them.
Like, if you had one piece of advice that you could give to, whether it's new resellers, whether it's teenagers about ready to enter adulthood, whether it's adults that are at that rock bottom stage and they're trying to like change their life, like what's one thing you would say, like a piece of advice that would be life changing?
You know what? I would say sometimes your brain plays with you, and it tells you no most of the time. You have to jump that and say, you know what? I can do it. And if I fail, at least I tried. And you just get up. Every time you fall, you just get up again, because God knows that we failed many times, and many times people have said no to us. So just jump, keep jumping. And I am lucky to have someone next to me, which is my brother, that I can not hold literally hands, but if I say jump, he will jump with me.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. So like that's like 2 incredible pieces of advice that our listeners, if they take those 2 things, right? One is buy everything secondhand, and 2, don't be afraid to go to take the leap of faith and to keep going. Even if you fail, you got to keep going. I think if our listeners just add those 2 things to their life, they're going to save money and they're going to find more success. So that's huge.
Yeah. And one third thing, have a partner. Everything that if like you two, see, you guys, it couldn't be a podcast with just Orlando,
right?
There has to be a mix of mic. And there has to be a mix of Orlando the other way around. If you find someone that is with you 100%. Your operation will just grow, and that's honestly a good advice.
All right, so got just a few more questions before we wrap things up. I'm just super interested. So you said, we've talked about this, and you said you failed many times, but I don't hear a lot of failure, but I'm sure there was. And
no one shows their failure.
I know. So we want to talk about it because I want people to know failure happens. So give us, if you want to share, what was one of your biggest failures as you're growing your business?
What's one big one, and my brother doesn't like me for it. I always try to be secretive, right? I always try to avoid conversation. I always try to, if they say, hey, can you give me a tip? I always say, I used to say, no, I can't, or that's a secret. The more you talk to people, the better you both are, because there's something that someone knows that I don't know. And so we can help both of us out. So Orlando, we've met each other. There's some stuff that he knows that I don't know, and there's some stuff that I know that he doesn't know. And if we didn't meet, we would have never known. What we've grown together. So be open, basically. Be open. Don't try to hide stuff. Meet people, talk to people. One of the best things that ever happened to us in our business was to go to a conference. Well, we went to a conference in Ohio, and we met one person. You just have to meet one person in that conference. And yeah, we paid a ticket. We paid $150 a ticket to go to this conference. We paid the flight. We paid the hotel room. But you just need one person
to change your perspective.
To change your perspective, to change your business. And this person, I can't disclose this. This is top secret.
It's all good.
But this person has 10x our business. And not to use Grant Cardone's, but he literally has 10x our business. And we are very grateful. And I know he's going to be watching this. So to you, thank you.
Yeah, but another failure is that we used to get top, the profit. Our profit was minimum $5 when we're doing
That's true. That's true. You know what? Yeah. So by these mistakes you learn. So before, we used to basically cherry pick our gaylords, right? Yeah. Is that a good term? Yeah. So we used to cherry pick our gaylords. So we were only getting $5 and up. We were only getting good books. When we already had the books, these books were ours already. So we were basically throwing away profit. So this is a huge tip that I'm going to give out to those booksellers. So if the lower the rank, the lower the profit you should be accepting. Because a lot of people, and if you hear YouTube, because a lot of people go on YouTube, and that's how we started to learn stuff. A lot of those teachers out there in the YouTube world, they're like, you can only get $2 profit, and that's it. $2, no more, no less, no more. Or more, no less. Well, if it's a 10,000 ranked book, which is really low, and it's $1 profit, are you just going to leave it if you buy a book? Are you just going to leave all these dollar bills out there if they're going to sell this quick as soon as they hit the Amazon warehouse? So the lower the profit, the lower the rank, the lower the profit.
And scan every book.
Scan every book. That's right. That's right. We used to not scan kids' books back then. None of them. Like we said, all kids' books are not profitable. Well, we were wrong. We scan every single book now.
Yeah.
Everything.
Can you imagine how many thousands of dollars you've just recycled?
How much money we've thrown away. Honestly, we were every day you learn in this business, and you just don't stop learning.
Episode 84. Sell quick, ship quick.
I want to know, so talk to us about how could you, if you had the ability to sum up your operations in a few sentences, right? Because you're multi-platform, you have a lot going on. How would you, I guess, explain your operation? Now, you had mentioned a little bit how you're a team, right? So, Tiffany, you sell quick and he ships quick. So I'm guessing you do the listings and he does the shipping or something to that effect. Explain to us your operation.
Okay, so I think 80 to 90% of our inventory is clothing. So we source together, but once it gets home, I process the clothing. I do the photos and measurements and listings. When they sell, he ships it. If it's hard goods,
yeah, I take care of it all. Yeah. And so, for example, we go to a thrift store, we split our ways right when we get in. I mean, Orlando's has seen that in action.
Mhm.
Tip will go straight to normally women's clothes. I'll go straight to the hard goods, electronics, the glass, behind the glass, see what they have, overpriced that doesn't belong behind the glass. And then after that, I'll go to men's clothing. So that's the sourcing part. And then once we get home, she processes, like you said, the clothing, listings and everything. And I'll help out with the hard goods and customer service and yeah. And all that splits amongst all the
other
platforms.
stuff. Yeah.
But it seems like you skipped a lot of things. I've seen, I guess, the behind the scenes. There's a lot that goes on. So how do you have that set up so you can actually live while selling on multiple platforms? So you have some kind of systems in place.
Well, first, like I think the best way to sum up is our goal is always to be efficient, because our most valuable thing is time. Where sometimes we're willing, and you guys have talked about in your other shows about sometimes you pay up to get some of that time you need. That's more important, right? What you guys talked about getting somebody to help out at the house to clean things like that. So in our case, like we want to be as efficient as possible. So one of the things she does well and has really helped us is the cross listing. And she does it on, what is it, eBay, Poshmark, and Mercari. And she does that with the clothing. I mean, how long does it take you now, average?
Like 2 to 3 minutes to cross post.
Nice.
Yeah.
Like, so start to finish, like taking pictures and then posting, about how much time do you spend per item, do you think?
When I averaged it out, I think it takes me, let's see, from photograph to measurement to listing, what do we say, like 5 to 7 minutes in total per item?
Nice. And it's going on how many platforms?
3. If it's vintage, then 4, because I'll go on Etsy.
Nice. So that's like a minute or 2 per platform if you think
That's
about it.
really fast.
Yeah, that's awesome.
That's uber fast.
So I've timed it because for efficiency, I have the little mini Google. And so I'll talk to Google and ask Google to set up a timer. And I set up a timer to see how long it takes me to photograph. So I'll do a 30-minute timer. At the end of the 30-minute timer, I'll count how many items I was able to photograph. Sometimes it's 11, sometimes it's 14.
It all depends on the item.
Yeah, but when I say photograph, it means photograph, measure, fold, and bag. And then, so that'll take anywhere from 1 to 3 minutes, depending on the item. And then because it takes 2 to 3 minutes for me to cross post, and that adds up to about, anywhere from 5 to 7 minutes.
Nice.
That is incredible. And you guys have YouTube videos, right? That you show how you do the cross posting and all those things, right?
Yeah.
So you're also on YouTube. We haven't talked about that, but you've been dropping a lot of videos lately on YouTube.
I guess that would be another thing to add to our
To your repertoire.
Yeah.
Yeah, we do our best to stay on top of our social media, including YouTube. So we're fairly active on Instagram, and like you said, about at least three videos a week.
Yeah.
Wow.
And your social media is great. Like I love watching your stuff because it's just funny, right? Like you guys are funny. You're always either dressing up as something or singing or dancing, or I don't know, you make it fun. Like it's not just like, here's an item, I paid this much, I made this much. Like you have a lot of fun with what you're doing. And I think it's like contagious. People see that and it brings joy to the reselling. So like, is that just your personality? Is that how you guys are all the time? Or is that like something you do just for social media? Not that you want to admit that, but like what?
Yes, they're just terrible people.
Orlando's been around
Orlando knows,
front all day.
They have to hide it really well if that's who they are.
No, that's what helps us. I mean, I know a lot of people look at us and say like, why don't you guys rest, stop, but we have fun doing things together. So we don't actually feel stressed out as much. By all means, we all have our stresses from any jobs we do. But, by making it fun, it definitely makes time fly. Yeah. And slowly we just started sharing that more and more on social media.
But him dancing, that's
like it really is. Yeah, what you guys social media gets about 15 to 20% of the shenanigans I actually do all day.
You guys know I get it. So talk to us. Okay, let's get back to logistics then. So talk to us about your use of a spreadsheet. Like, what do you include in that spreadsheet? How'd you come across it, or how'd you create it? And how's it been helpful? I know that's a lot of questions, so just go with it.
So spreadsheets. I think my first time looking up spreadsheets, I found like a YouTube video. Someone, I forgot who it was, but showed their spreadsheet. So I created my own spreadsheet. It was not the most efficient one, but I would keep track of where we got the item, the date we got it, the item name and price, and then I would input how much we sold it for to figure out net profit. That was our entire 2018. By the end of 2018, I wanted to figure out a better way to keep track of our bookkeeping and our inventory management. And I found Not Your Dad's CPA, and he had a free spreadsheet on his website. Anyone can download it. And I found it and I liked it, but I tweaked it for us. The aesthetic of it, I made it more aesthetically pleasing for me.
It's a lot prettier.
It's more posh.
I wouldn't call it posh.
But it's more specific. So on his, I think on the Not Your Dad's CPA one, it didn't include the net profit. And so I included the net profit. And then I also included so I put location, date purchased, item, the price, and then it'll be sales date, the sales price,
and shipping. And
then I put in the shipping, fees, and the net.
Yeah.
And then I also have a column for indicating if that item was returned or not.
Wow.
So then I'll indicate if it got returned. And then if it got returned, then I put in the numbers, and then I'll turn that line item red to show that we're in the negative for that one. So then when we resell it, it'll match
adjust,
up. Yeah. But on my spreadsheet, I actually have it where it populates onto another spreadsheet. That's my dashboard. And on that dashboard, it'll actually give me the monthly totals for each platform. And then it'll also give me an overall total for all the platforms. So every Sunday, I do bookkeeping. Every Sunday, we'll get an update. It'll let me know how much we made that week on Poshmark, on eBay, on Mercari, on Amazon, and then how much we made in total amongst all of them.
Nice.
And I can see how much we've spent in cost of goods on those items.
We can see which platform we're paying more fees. Or return. The other great thing on there is that she added shipping. And that allows us to see, how much we're spending on shipping.
Yeah.
Because one thing I've thought about is trying to make sure we have an idea. And thanks to her spreadsheet, we can see what we're shipping, how much we're spending on shipping, to possibly try to get our own account one day for a shipping account in terms of going to USPS and trying to get our own rate.
Oh, wow.
But doing this and doing the timing, it all makes sense for us, because if I time how much it takes me to photograph and list, I can put a time value per item. So when I do my spreadsheets, if I can see if we're netting $10 off this item, then that's $10 in 6 minutes.
Okay. That is
that worth it.
Okay. Do you have an accounting background, or is this just natural for you?
No, she was personality. High school class president. She was in leadership through most of high school, and she's got organization down.
Nice.
No, it's impressive. I mean, I knew all this, but you kind of forget, and then I'm reminded about how efficient you guys are with your time and your money and your numbers.
And thanks to her stuff, I stopped picking up certain things that if I kept going under my own pile system, I was like, oh yeah, I'm totally making money on that. And then she'd come out and be like, well, after everything, you made $2 on that. Is it worth the time for everything? Yeah. And the time is sat there for $2.
So you're saying, sorry, go ahead.
Oh no. I was going to say, part of me wants to say yes, just so that I'm not, I can say, yeah, totally. But the reality is it's not.
So you're saying that comps isn't enough, that it goes beyond comps. So you might find some comps, pick it up, and ultimately in the end, as a result of a best offer or return or whatever reason, it may not be profitable.
Like, okay, if you're going to pick up an item that's going to take 30 minutes to clean, you have to consider the time that you spent sourcing it, the time that it's going to take you to prep the item, the time that's going to take you to photograph it, to list it. If it's an item you have to spend a lot of time researching, it takes you 30 minutes to research, 30 minutes to clean, then you sell it and you think you netted $80. Well, $80, but then it took you a whole hour to actually work on that. And then is it worth it?
Yeah.
That's something that I think many of us don't do, especially me that I'm full-time. I think I have all the time in the world, right? So to me, it's no big deal. I mean, the one thing I won't mess with as much anymore is, let's say, dual deck VCRs and in recorders, because I think I'm making a lot of money, but the time that I spend trying to fix something, get it prepped, get it packed, I may make more money on a Harley shirt. I mean, I'm being extreme, but
no, yeah, or 2 or 3 Harley shirts that you can get done way faster than one dual deck.
Yep.
I think that's so powerful that you guys share that. I hope our listeners are listening in, because that's huge. I think that much is said in the reselling community about that. Really appreciate you guys sharing that. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, and that's the stuff that's not necessarily fun too, because I remember Orlando and I have talked about this on multiple podcasts, and I've mentioned, like, we got to use spreadsheet. You got to know, because there's a lot of other costs involved, even the mileage that it takes to get the items, and all of that is put into how much are you actually making, even when it comes down to time to do taxes, right? And numbers aren't what a lot of people find enjoyable, but the reality is, the numbers is the reason why we're doing this, and all of those numbers become tools in your toolbox, like you said, so you're not wasting time on items. That's great. Episode 88, the Side Hustle Network.
We're 4 years deep on this. Perfect example. I did a post. When did I do those 6 carts out of one store? Like
maybe 2 months ago.
Yeah, like 6 to 8 weeks ago. I was fortunate enough. I walked into this Walmart. They were doing a hard reset. Anyone who's in the business kind of knows what those terms are. They were doing a hard reset. They were deleting mods, is what it's called, bringing new inventory and getting rid of old stuff. I was finding toys for $2 that sell for 20 plus all day long. I pulled 6 carts full of toys out of that, which fortunately I fit all of it. I was driving her car luckily that day, because I went in expecting to get, 5, 10, 20 things. 6 carts. And then I'm able to post out on Instagram like, whoopee, look at the money I'm going to make.
Yeah.
Last night, I did a post and it was an empty shopping cart. And I said, this sums up my 6-hour sourcing day today. That's the reality. That's how I can elaborate, is you have to be willing to ride the roller coaster, because this thing is a roller coaster. And that's, I think, with any business, we could just, talk general business here, not just reselling specifically, but it was the same thing when I was a massage therapist. I had months where we had thousands of dollars extra because I worked on so many clients. I'm like, cool, we can go out and eat when we want. We can go do all this fun stuff. And then the next month I'd have trouble paying our rent because I didn't have any bodies on the table. Same thing with personal training, right? It goes, January is awesome for personal training. July, not many people want to go work out with me.
Yeah.
So I learned early on, just any business you do, you have to be willing to ride the roller coaster.
And plan ahead.
The people we see come and go in reselling are the ones who have an expectation that sales are going to climb and it's linear. They're going to keep climbing month after month.
Yep.
It doesn't work that way. Even if you're sourcing your butt off, it's not going to work that way. You're going to have seasons of, sometimes it's really slow, sometimes it's really busy. We have Q4, which is, the months around Christmas time, are incredible. And I had that false expectation because I started this whole thing in November as a newbie. And I'm like, wow, I can pull these numbers every single month with Amazon. Great. And then February.
Why isn't more people doing it?
Yeah. February got here and I got a quick wake up call with half my sales that month as the prior month. So if you're willing to ride the roller coaster and stay consistent with this thing, that's the mentality people need to come into it with.
That's good. So what are some of the strategies you use? Like, I mean, obviously we talk a lot on our podcast about like saving and being prepared for times when the market's down or when you're not able to source as much, but how do you keep that mindset of it's down right now, but I can keep going? Like, how do you encourage people through that?
I would say diversify first of all.
Yeah, that's, again, it comes back to like our brand Side Hustle Network, is because we're huge fans of multiple side hustles that makes up the ultimate business for us. So diversifying if you can. I know a lot of people that jump way too soon, and we were kind of in that arena where she quit her job probably 6 months too soon. because we didn't have a large savings account. We had enough to float by for a few months. And we both realized real quick that we were going to be pretty financially tight for a few months until we got this business up. So diversifying your income streams is a huge one.
And that doesn't mean you have to have a huge YouTube channel when you get started. It just means like we started on Amazon and then eventually moved to eBay. And, a lot of people we don't sell on Mercari, but a lot of people sell on Mercari. We sell on Poshmark. We're really big fans of local sales. There's lots of ways to make money.
Yeah. So when we say diversify your income, that's not you need another job or something like that. It doesn't have to be that. For some people it is, but diversifying categories, types of products. If all you sell is shoes all year, you're probably going to see some dips on some months, right? Especially if you're selling cleats, there's going to be certain times during the year that those do really well. So instead of selling shoes all year round, if you catch a trend of like, well, during these months or these seasons, shoe sales are down, why don't I try to flip and go for something else? Kitchen and home, go for toys, go for video games. So finding multiple different outlets and products are going to help out.
And then what are some of the mistakes you'd like to share?
Haven't we already talked about all our mistakes?
You did a little bit. I don't know.
Bad buy. What was a bad buy?
Bad buy.
One single bad buy?
Yeah, like a bad purchase where you're like, ooh, this was a bad buy.
Like a major one. It can't be like the $5 buy. It has to be,
Yeah, we've all made so our biggest one, we
being real on this podcast.
We kept an item from this because it was such a bad buy and we had to remember it for every future purchase. So,
okay.
Now I remember
our most expensive mistake.
Yeah.
We had we had our garage. We were not even a year. We were probably 6 to 8 months.
Yeah.
Into the Amazon game. We had just kind of started dabbling into eBay for your clothing stuff. So we knew we had eBay to sell this stuff on. And I thought, well, I've flipped at this point at least like 10 pallets worth of liquidation stuff just fine. Why don't we commit to buying half a truckload? Which instead of buying 1 or 2 pallets at a time, we now are committing to at least 10 in one load in our garage.
Yeah.
God bless our neighbors who are good friends of ours when we had to call them like, hey, how much room do you have in your garage?
Oh, man.
So we found out if we cleared one small walkway up the middle, we can fit 8 pallets in our garage and then the other 3 in their garage.
Oh, geez.
And so I pallet jacked those pallets down the road all the way to their house. But
we look like lunatics, by the way.
So the mistake was I looked through these manifests, not all the way. And if you don't know what a manifest is, it's just typically an Excel spreadsheet that will show an itemized breakdown of everything that's in that load. So I took a general look because, I was a pallet pro at the time. I had flipped 10 of them. I knew what I was doing. So I looked through this stuff and I'm like, oh my gosh, it's only $3,000 to get 11 pallets. So I broke it down how many units were in each pallet. And this is where I didn't look through the manifest all the way. I just looked at more so how many units in every pallet. And then I took 3,000 divided by how many units. That's how much we're going to pay. So I told the sales rep, okay, I want to get these 11 pallets is what they had up for grabs. And it was buy all or nothing. So I had to buy all 11. I'm like, yep, this works out fine. That breaks down to like $5 a unit. I know I can sell this stuff for 10. We're good. And then the shipping cost got landed on. I had never dealt with freight on this big of a load before. I was used to paying like $100, maybe $200 for a pallet. So he came back again. This was $3,000 in inventory costs. Came back with $2,800 for freight.
Yeah.
So I've never dealt with freight. I didn't know that was stupid high.
Oh, yeah, it's true.
I didn't know any better. Now I know that should have cost less than $1,000 to ship to me. So
there's all these lessons in this story. Everybody pay attention.
Yeah. So my buy cost now doubled from about $5 a unit to now almost $10 a unit, which is what I thought I was going to sell this stuff at. And of course, I could have stopped and be like, it's a little bit too high on our cost. I'm just going to move on to the next deal. Thanks for your time. That's what I should have done. But I was eager and a little money hungry to make that deal. So I'm like, yep, done. Send me the invoice. Paid almost $6,000. The stuff gets shipped here. We store it. And in my head, the second mistake was how much time it would take. Right. So first mistake was the money up front, the shipping cost. without looking through the manifest properly. Second mistake was the time I thought, and I told her, because this is when she just had quit her job to come help me do all this. Because I thought, what better way than ordering 11 pallets to get you in the
put
game?
her to work,
Right.
man, you know?
So
You'll definitely want to do this after.
in my head, I'm doing the math. I'm like, okay, if we do this many units, blah, blah, blah. So I had told her, I'm like, yeah, so we got the 11 pallets. We sorted them. And she has a little bit of anxiety stuff going on sometimes. So she looked at this and like,
I lost it.
What are we doing? And how many days did I tell you it would take?
We really thought we could get through it in a week.
I told her it would take 7 days to get through all this.
Mm-hmm.
About
3 weeks later.
3 to 4 weeks later.
Yeah.
We're still processing a bunch of stuff. And this was, now if anyone, now we know better. And at the time, if this had been shelf pulls, this would have been a different story. Shelf pulls is when a store can't sell a product. So it's all still new in the box and they ship it to you. This was customer returns, which means there was a lot of boxes beat up. There was a lot of testing because we got toasters and crock pots and all that stuff needed tested.
This just sounds painful.
It was like a litter of just like appliances just plugged into electrical outlets wherever we could just test things and make sure they turned on. And then it was
and we'll never.
Do you guys have any documentation of this? Do you guys take any video of this?
No.
I'm sure I've got photos.
That would be great because the videos that get the most views right now are still, I mean, not as much, but it's the pallet, right? But usually they're like successful. If you had one that said, we ordered 11 pallets and they all failed, like
never do pallets.
That'd be awesome clickbait. Anyway, just throwing it out there.
That's a prime example of what we should have been doing earlier on. Now we're way better at this, but earlier on, and this goes for all content creators, YouTubers, Instagram, etc. Don't just share the highlight reels. I was so embarrassed at the failure we had that I was like, I'm not taking any footage of this. I'm going to be told, I told you so. I knew you were going to fail this business. All those things running through my head. So we have a few photos. We didn't take any video. Which unfortunately now I know better. That would have been so not just a cool video to look back on, but I know how much that would have helped so many more people that have made that same mistake. But yeah, so it's about 4 weeks into this, we're processing, and I'll never forget the item that we kept because it was about 2 a.m. and those were the nights that we were putting in. It was about 2 a.m. We're exhausted. We've been doing this for weeks and we're pulling out stuff. And again, we're keeping in mind our buy cost per unit. So every item you pull out, you're like, that's not worth $10. That's not worth $10. She pulls out this brown box about this big and shakes it. She opens it up and it's a 4-pack of these little coat hangers that the white things you put on the wall. They have little coat hangers sticking up, except for only one of them still had the little hook on it. The other 2 were broke. And it's $1.99 at Walmart. And she picks it up and she loses her mind. She's like, I paid for this. And she throws it across the whole garage. We have the most epic meltdown we've ever seen in our 14 years being together.
Yeah.
And we
can laugh now.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Some time of healing has passed.
Yeah. So we still to this day kept the item and it's in our warehouse on a shelf. So we never forget. We do not do a load like that again without proper research.
Yeah, research. and I am a data hound now after that experience. I just almost won't buy something if there isn't any data. And that can be a fault, but
it depends, like antiques, collectors, that's a little bit different, but this type of load.
Right.
And that also, the last point too, was that was all of our money. We had no capital. Like we couldn't source after that. So that was, the mistake being the third one was we put all of our capital into one thing, all of our eggs in one basket. Never do that. The fewer amount of dollars you have, the wider you should be going on product, right? If you've got $100 to your name, don't buy one type of item for $100. You try to split it across 5 items. The more capital you have access to and play around with, sure, you can go a little bit deeper on stuff, but that was the other biggest mistake we made was all of it went towards one thing, which we ended up probably making like 1,000 profit at the end of the day, but on $6,000 buy cost. And it took probably 3 months to recoup that. That was not
it was rough
worth it at all. That was the first legit time I'm like, screw this. I'm going back to doing massage therapy. I'm out. This is tough.
What's amazing about that story, though, is you said that was right after Trista started staying home. Is that you kept going? Like if any time you're gonna throw in the towel, like that would have been it. But the fact that you kept going, I mean, that says something. That says that you've got the hustle, you've got what it takes to stay motivated, to keep at it, which is, I think, ultimately why you've been successful, right? Because everybody's going to have those downtimes. You're going to make those mistakes, and it's going to be the people who are willing to keep going and keep going for it. So my hat's off to you. That's amazing. That's encouraging to me. I mean, my wife just started staying home just a couple weeks ago. To do
Congratulations.
Don't buy 11 pallets.
Episode 92, Matt Klein.
I don't know. I was always trying to make money. And I think the most interesting story about high school is the Gatorade story. Have I told you that?
No.
I mean, I haven't heard it. Please, let's hear it.
I wonder where this is going to go. So,
So Michelle Obama took away like the bad foods in the school cafeteria my senior year. So it's like 2012. And before they had like Gatorades and ice cream and slushies and candy and anything you want you could buy, so she took it all away. And my thing was, I just wanted a Gatorade to drink on a Thursday or a Friday before the game. So the crazy thing was, I was at the store and I found $10 on the ground, and I was like, let me just buy some Gatorades.
Nice.
I had the money to buy Gatorades, but I was just like, oh, $10, free Gatorade.
ROI.
So I brought it to, ROI, there you go. So I brought it to school, and I had no intent on reselling it, to be honest. But like 5 people were like, hey, can I have one? I'm like, no. They're like, can I buy one? I'm like, yeah. So I just sold them for $1. And then it's like a total like reinvesting story. It's like what I do in my business now. Little did I know what I learned doing Gatorades would carry on. But
Nice.
the catch is I sold 1,700 Gatorades in about 3 months.
Wow.
It was a big operation, man.
Yeah,
never
you're the
thought of
Gatorade
it.
man for sure.
You're the supplier. Now,
So how are you carrying those around? Like, did you just like load them up in your backpack? Or you like have a wagon? Like, how do you move that much Gatorade?
So in my locker I had like this little cooler. So, customers were complaining
goodness.
that it wasn't cold. And I'm like, okay,
This is
so
great.
I had this little cooler and stuck them in there. And then I had this over the strap, like carrying, and it could fit 6 Gatorades. So I'd have to like restock. But looking back on it now, man, I learned a lot about just customer satisfaction and just little stuff, little nuggets that you could take from it. But I actually got in trouble, and you'll like this, Orlando, because you were a principal, right?
Yeah, I was. Yes. I
So
love how
the
you
principal-
position that. Okay, go ahead.
The principal comes up to me and says, Matt, are you selling Gatorades? And this is in the lunchroom. I'm like, I lied, to be honest. I'm like, no. I'm like, I'm not. He goes, let me ask you again, Mr. Klein, are you selling Gatorades? And I said, yes, sir. He goes, look, I love your entrepreneurial spirit, but I don't want to see it again. You got me? And he kind of like winked in. I'm like,
Wink, wink.
I'm like, okay, you won't see anything again. And from there, it got really sketchy. And, I had to like start doing like these hidden deals. And we're talking about Gatorade.
Yeah. No, yeah, I like the image of like you, kids crowding around you in like the corner of a building, and you're like dishing them out, looking to make sure
maybe
that
at
nobody's coming around the
305
corner.
over in this
Yes.
room.
Yeah, no, that's
Bring
great.
cash only. Make sure no one's following you.
Yeah, I love that. That's awesome.
But the rule is, the lunchroom is supposed to make money, and you can't be a competitor. And I get it, but and the crazy thing was, I just reinvested. So I never spent $1 from what I earned with Gatorades. And I mean, I had like, I sold 1,000 and I had $1,000, and I'm like, I should just go buy an iPhone with this or whatever. That was back when the iPhone 4 was around, by the way.
Yes.
But
which goes to show, like you're probably glad you didn't. But that says something too. I mean, just thinking about your background, because when you come from a place like that where you don't have a lot and you're struggling to make ends meet, and then all of a sudden you've got a bunch of cash in your hand, and the fact that you don't blow it, right?
Yeah.
Step one is that you were willing to go out and work really hard for it. And then 2, you have it. And then you didn't just see like short term. And I think that's something that a lot of young people and just people in general is this idea of like delayed gratification, like waiting a little bit longer to get something better. Like, is that something you've always had, or like what made you not spend that money?
I I really don't know, man. I don't really need anything. I always just live below my means and still do to this day. I don't know. I just didn't need anything. So I wanted to see how many Gatorades I could really sell. And the only reason I stopped is I told you I had shoulder surgery, so I could no longer carry the thing around. Wow. So,
all right. So let's fast forward a little bit. Let's get to, was it thrift stores that got a hold of you? Was it a garage sale? Was it you going to a Nike store? Because we're going to talk about this a little bit, but you primarily sell Nike shoes. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
But I've been selling for 6 years now. So
6 years. Okay.
Well, to answer your question, it was actually an estate sale.
Oh, really? Okay.
And at the time, I went with my girlfriend's dad, and it was one of those things where, the house was open, and then there's like a closet, or it was like a second room in the garage, and there was all this stuff, and like we moved the stuff, and we went into this little room, and of course we asked if we could, and he's like, yeah, he's like, I don't know what's in there, but go ahead.
Oh,
it was crazy. It was weird though, because you're learning about what this person did, like with their whole life and like everything else. Whoever it was like a leader in the army, and he had all these medals and coats, and there was probably a lot of money in there. But I found this stopwatch, which was really cool. Well, one was a stopwatch and one was like a pocket watch. So I found those, and my girlfriend's dad bought them, and he took it home and he opened the back of it, and there was gold gears in it.
Whoa.
So it ended up selling for like $475 or something.
And this was on eBay?
The other one sold
eBay?
for, he did it on eBay.
Okay.
I was just there. I just found it, right? But he said, hey, thanks. He said, thanks for finding them. And it was like one of those handshake kind of things. And I just put it in my pocket because I was leaving. And I got home and I counted it, and it was $300.
Wow.
Nice.
And I was like, holy crap. So that's where I think it kind of, I don't know, just finding gems. And that's what I like about you guys, man. Especially Orlando posted all the time. All the gems you find at garage sales, I love it. And that's why I love your content so much.
Thanks.
It's just so cool.
Well, I love watching yours. And here's the thing. So you started... Did you just what I want to know is, how did you go from, it seems like you started, I was tracking your Instagram story, a little stalkerish, but I wanted to get a little more background on you.
We'll call it research.
We'll call it research.
Yeah, research. That's cool. That's
there
cool.
You go. But it seems like you did a few thrift stores, and then there's like this jump to Nike outlets and stuff like that. So what did it do? Were you doing like side hustle while you were going to school, and then as you had less school, you ended up picking up more? Like, what happened?
Great question. The honest answer is, so I transferred back from the school I was playing football at, and I transferred back home. And we have a big Division I school next to us. So I went there, and after the first semester, a counselor called me in and said, Mr. Klein, we need you to get your grades up. And I said, okay. I said, yeah, no problem. I'll work on it. And I get up to leave, and she says, no, I need you to sign on this line right here that you're going to get your grades up or you're kicked out of here. Wow. I had a 1.4 GPA.
I'm sorry to tell you, but I've been there.
You've been there?
That was my freshman year. Yes. So, anyways, we'll share another time. I ended up with 4.0 my last 2 years, but yes, I've been there.
So yeah, I mean, you can turn it around. I think from my problem though was, I don't party or anything. I wasn't out partying it up. I had 2 jobs. I was working McDonald's in the stock room. So I was organizing all their inventory, and then I started ordering the trucks. So it was kind of cool. And then I started working at like a steakhouse. I was trying to be a server to make the real money. And I realized, I'm like, man, I said, I'm working too much and I'm not focusing enough on school. So I quit McDonald's, and I started working at the steakhouse. And like I said, I was trying to be a server. After a year, the boss said she couldn't fill my shoes to promote me up. So I said, okay. I started going to thrift stores, and I was buying like just athletic stuff, like anything I would wear, like polos and Under Armour polos and stuff like that. And it got to a point where I started making more money during my shifts from eBay and hearing the cha-chings and stuff. And it was like, it's time to leave. If you're not going to promote me, then I'm going to leave. So
So did you buy a lot of junk when you first started? Like, were you doing research? Like, how did you figure out what to source?
So it is crazy because now the resellers are spoiled rotten because you just tell them the whole process, right? Like I had to learn eBay on my own, and I had a little help from my girlfriend's dad, but I was no longer with her, so it was a little divide, right? But I had to just figure it out and looking up the comps and everything else. And yeah, I bought a lot of bad stuff. I bought a lot of terrible, like used shoes. Some of the shoes that I bought, I'm like, I probably still have some today. It's just like, why on earth did you buy that?
Yeah, it happens to everybody.
Yeah.
So you went thrift stores, and then what got you into the retail arbitrage? How did that end up happening?
So that's also interesting too. So I was at the store that shall not be named.
Oh, yeah. You got to listen to the podcast. There you go.
So I was at the store and I found I had a buddy with me. So I found 280 pairs of Adidas soccer cleats.
Whoa.
And they retail for like $12. But they were $1.
Nice.
So I'm like, I can make $1. I can spend $1 and make $1. So I bought them all. And my buddy that I was with thought I was completely crazy. But I called my uncle. I got a successful entrepreneur uncle, and I called him. I'm like, hey man, like I just found all these socks. Like I'm gonna sell them. Da da da. And he said, socks. He's like, man, you're gonna have to do something more than socks.
So they're not cleats; they're socks.
No, it was just socks.
Oh, just socks.
So
okay, just want to make sure. Okay,
that's when I stumbled on. They weren't selling that fast on eBay, and it was actually the retargeted ad that Amazon uses. And I saw the pair of my socks on Amazon for like double the price, and I'm like, what?
Oh man!
I go, I need to try to sell these on Amazon. So again, I figured it out. I call a lot of hours on support. And I remember doing my first FBA shipment. And I
want to rewind you, Matt, real quick. So you're saying you didn't go to YouTube and watch like YouTubers do Amazon FBA because there wasn't that much FBA content 6 years ago.
I don't think so.
No, there was maybe, I remember GillDaddy and I remember some other old school people, but there really wasn't much. So you're saying you called Amazon and they walked you through the process of how to do the shipment?
Yes. And I don't think now you have to like go into the forms and then like request a call and all this stuff. This was, it feels like it wasn't that long ago, but this was back when you could just call into seller support.
Huh.
And so they could walk you through anything.
Wow. And so you sent in the socks to FBA?
Yes. And then all of a sudden, man, I got this email that said I sold 10 of them. And I'm like, what? Wow. The first day? Like, what? So sure enough, man, I sold all those socks and I went down to Florida and I wanted to take my cousin on a fishing charter. And I invited my uncle and I said, don't worry about paying for it. The socks are paying for it.
Nice. Nice. You said you're going to need more than socks. And you're like, no. I got this.
No, yeah. So it was, but that's how I got into FBA.
Episode 96, Cindy and Matt from the Amazing Taste Store.
So when I started selling on eBay, like that was back in the day. So you may or may not remember, like back before pictures, back when people sent you cash in the, mail.
Money orders.
Yeah, money orders. There weren't a lot of options out there. If you wanted to, especially if you wanted to sell used clothing, eBay was pretty much the only game in town. And that was okay. It worked great for a long time to just do eBay. And then as you came on board, it became more pertinent to us to have our income be more stable.
We didn't want all our eggs in one basket.
So Matt had worked before the job he hated in the housing industry when the housing market crashed. And you walk into work one day and he calls me on the phone. And he says, we're getting furloughed for 10 days this month. That's rough.
Yeah.
And so we didn't ever want to be in that position again. And having all of our eggs in the eBay basket left us susceptible to that same outcome. So as those opportunities came to diversify, we've taken them and we've seeing which ones work for us, which ones don't. Not everything works. Not everything makes sense. But yeah, I think that's kind of why we.
Yeah, you're just, unfortunately, if you're selling just on one platform, you're really susceptible to, if something happens to that platform and they crash for the day. You had one day where you had a bunch of high-end auctions up and auctions crashed. So you didn't
way back in the day.
You got like one bid on each item.
Man.
You mean there were glitches back then?
Oh, yeah. Okay. For anyone who's watching who sells clothing, I had found probably 20 pieces of Escondar. So I had all of this high-end women's clothing. Yeah. And back in the day, you could only do auctions. I ran them all at auctions, started them all at $9.99. Every last one of them sold for $9.99.
Oh,
wow.
No.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and back then they were selling for what, $200-$300?
Oh, yeah.
Now, did you have to honor those?
Yeah, I honored every one of them. Wow. I sent them out and took the hit and have not forgotten that day. I know exactly where I found them. I know exactly what they were, but that's just it. You're susceptible. It was a glitch. The site went down as those auctions were ending, and those buyers got a great deal.
So just out of curiosity, do you guys use auctions anymore, or are you pretty much now like buy it now?
We actually have auctions ending tonight.
Oh, wow.
We do.
Yeah, we do.
So what's your strategy for auctions versus like buy it now? Like, when do you choose one over the other?
So this round of auctions was because we did a live unboxing of a Goodwill Blue box.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, that was some interesting stuff.
I get why you auctioned it. Okay.
Yeah, so we just threw it all up at auction to see what would happen, and several of them got multiple bids.
Oh, really?
Yeah. He hasn't seen them yet.
No.
But normally we are mostly fixed price.
Okay.
I would only use auctions if I had a really hot item that I thought then could drive a lot of traffic, or if I had an item that I didn't know the value of, then I'd put it up at an auction, let the market decide. But generally speaking, we're pretty much just fixed price.
Yeah, sometimes we'll use auctions to blow out old inventory.
Okay. Now, you guys are not in the long game. You're kind of a little more fast nickel. Like, you want things to sell. I mean, we all want things to sell, but you want them to sell quickly.
For, I would say 90% of our inventory, that is true. We do have some inventory that we're okay sitting on for as long as it takes.
Okay, so I'm gonna ask some number questions. So I remember one time on an IG story. So you never have more than 1,000 items in your store, correct?
Not anymore. There was a time when
we had 2,000.
We had 20. We got up to 2,500 at one point.
Oh wow.
Okay, and what made you shift from? And then how are you able to keep that momentum?
Made a shift.
I don't remember, but there was something.
That's a huge gap. 2,500 to 700. Something happened.
I probably had a random wild idea on a Monday morning.
Well, we went to eBay Open the first time, which was 3 years ago.
Yeah.
And that's when we had 2,500 items up, and we ran everything at auction.
We put our entire store at auction.
Oh, wow.
Items at auction.
Okay, can I ask why? Do you remember the why?
Oh yeah. So I love a good experiment. I love a good challenge. I always want the data. I want to see the real numbers. Like, if you did this, what would happen? So I knew what happens if you go on vacation and you change your handling time. I know what happens if you go on vacation and you set your store to vacation mode and you change your handling. I had all that data. I wanted to know what would happen if you put everything up to auction. And then would that increase in sales then make up for your decrease in your lost new listings and that sort of thing from being on vacation? So I can tell you that Friday, so we're at eBay Open, and my phone starts going nuts because all of those auctions start ending. We got home, I think we shipped for what, like 3 days straight?
Oh, goodness.
Like 10 hours a day.
Yeah, like it was a bit nutty.
Let me jump in real quick. You said you had 2,500 items, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you put them all on auction.
Mm-hmm.
Does that mean they all, like, how many of them sold?
So I think we sold maybe
400.
Oh, way more than that.
500.
Way more than that.
I have never heard a story like this in all my years of reselling. I've never heard a story.
So it's like a good bad day, right? Or was it total loss and you're like, oh, that was a bad decision?
It was a bad decision.
Well,
it was a bad
decision. The one thing we did do was we set prices for like the lowest amount we were willing to take on something.
So we didn't lose money.
So our starting bids, they weren't like 99-cent auctions.
Okay.
So starting bids were like $10
or $20.
$20 and
so we didn't lose. From a money standpoint, we came home to a nice bankroll of cash.
Nice.
From a money standpoint, it was great. The problem was we went from 2,500 items to like 1,000 items overnight. So then we have like no inventory. We've just gotten back from Vegas from eBay Open. You guys have now been to eBay Open. You know what that feels like. And it takes a few days just to get over to begin with. Now we have 3 days of shipping. And so getting that momentum back to getting items into our store, getting items to sell again, it was probably a 6-week.
Well, and you had the traffic spike. So you had a huge traffic spike.
And we could never duplicate that.
You know, and then you just couldn't duplicate it. So it was really difficult to come back to that.
It wasn't a good idea. We would never do it again.
We wouldn't recommend doing it.
But it was fun to watch all the cha-chings come in.
No, it is addicting. I mean, I've done auctions before, and it's really nice when it's a real bidding war. But when it's not, it's not. But you know,
it's true.
Okay, so now your store is less than 1,000, right? Yeah. And it's consistently less than 1,000. So you have a high sell-through rate.
Yeah.
So what does that look like? I've heard you say you do about 15 to 25 listings a day or 200 a week, right? Yeah. And then you have to replenish that too, right? Every week. So how do you replenish that? Like, what's your week look like?
So it really depends on what we're focused on. When we're focused on eBay, so we generally have one platform over the rest that we're focused on. When we're focused on eBay, we're sourcing probably twice a week.
2 to 3 times a week.
It just depends on how much we find. And then, we're looking for 200 to 300 items that will sell within a 60-day period at max. And then bring them home, process them. Matt photographs everything. I list everything.
And we ship together in the morning.
Yeah, and we ship together in the mornings.
So what kind of inventory are you looking for? So I'm thinking like trying to find 200 items in a week. That seems like a lot. Are you like diversified in a lot of different niches, or are you kind of focused in on one specific thing?
We do mostly clothing.
It's mostly almost all clothing.
Okay.
Yeah.
So are these bins or thrift stores? Do you have like local connections? I mean, if you want to share.
Yeah, give us your connections.
Well, it's not bins.
Okay.
We have bins by our house, and they're awful.
Is it a war zone out there? You're in Illinois.
No,
I can't see that.
It's just legit bad.
Okay, just bad inventory.
Nice, clean.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of people there, but
because there's nothing there.
The quality items that they get in is just awful. It's not.
Yeah, it's where used stained Morona goes to die.
Oh wow, it's up there with natural issue. Okay.
Yeah, it's just not good. So it's mostly thrift stores, some estate sales, garage sales. We do some liquidation. We, all the normal.
Okay.
Very nice. And are you doing like men's clothing, women's clothing, both? And how did you, if you don't mind me asking, because clothing is something I'm trying to break into a little bit more. And I've only got like a handful of things. I know a lot of it comes under research, but what was involved in the process of like learning what you're looking for versus like this stuff is just garbage?
So when I started, there was no YouTube. There was no smartphones. There was no going to the store and looking things up. You had to learn fabrics. You had to learn, okay, if something's made in Italy, then it's probably worth more. If, you learn stitching, that sort of thing. And I think those are skills that then help you find those items that nobody's talked about before, that you've never heard about, but are worth a lot of money.
So I got a question for you. So you guys have been doing this for a while now, and as a pair, as a team, which that presents its own positives, and sometimes that could be issues for some people. Now, my question though is like, what are some tips that you have for resellers to prevent burnout? Because I know even for me, like doing this short time, there's times where it's like things sell, and I've got to go ship it and get it to the office, and I don't want to do it tonight because I've got other stuff going on. Like how do you prevent burnout?
We look at our bills. And we say, we got to work.
You got to work.
We got to pay bills. I think it's a job.
For you, yeah.
For us, this is our job. And you're going to get burned out. I mean, it's inevitable. There are times where we're like,
I don't want to do this.
I don't want to do this. It's a job. I mean, but you have to realize we're paying bills with it. So we have to do it.
But I would say one of the things that I like to do, and he loves it when I do this, I love a challenge. I love to try something new. So any random day of the week, he might get up and I'll be like, I have this idea. We could do this, and then we could try this, and then we wind up with 2,500 items on auction.
That is one of the wildest stories I've ever heard in reselling. 2,500 auction. All right, keep going.
But those kind of experiments, like try the bins, try retail arbitrage. We tried the hard goods. That was an epic fail too.
Or just try going to new thrift stores.
Yeah.
Or new sourcing areas. Someplace that you didn't normally go to. Just change it up a little bit. I mean.
Yeah, it keeps the
kind of keeps it fresh.
Yeah.